The first Superman movie trailer has just dropped. I mean trailer because first we had a teaser, then a preview, and now we have a trailer. Don't look at me like that, I don't work in Hollywood marketing. It's time to analyze Superman in expert mode, examining every detail, reference, and theory of the movie. Let's get started. The trailer opens with a scene that makes it very clear that Clark and Lois are in a relationship and that she is aware of his double life as Superman. While current comics and shows like My Adventures with Superman and Superman Lois portray this as the norm, it hasn't always been the case. Portraying Superman as single is a relatively new trend that began after the 90s. And there was even a time when he was engaged to Lois Lane without her knowing he was Superman. And honestly, I do prefer this more modern approach. First of all, because I can't imagine Superman lying to Lois for years. Plus, I enjoy the approach where both characters team up as a couple to face injustices and help each other more. I love the scene because Clark changes his voice and posture when he's Superman, but there's more to it than that. In fact, I think this is my favorite scene. In the new Superman trailer, Clark allows Lois to interview him as Superman, a common theme in various adaptations. Since Clark understands that he needs people's trust to do his job. But to achieve this, he first needs to tell his story, so he first has to trust Lois Lane to tell it. However, things are not as Clark anticipates. Lois questions his political actions, leaving Clark perplexed. For him, what he did was stop a war and prevent innocent deaths. But for Lois and her journalistic view, his actions were an illegal invasion of a foreign nation, unwittingly representing the United States. I love this as it reveals the movie's focus. It suggests Superman will be portrayed as an idealistic character. He prioritizes doing good in the short term, but may not always consider long-term ramifications. Lois Lane is, on the contrary, a savvy and pragmatic journalist who does take into account all the possibilities. We'll see how this affects their relationship initially, but their different approaches make the team work well. On the other hand, this scene also reveals the film's political context. The trailer suggests that Superman and his actions represent the United States despite his denial of this notion. And this is very similar to what we saw in Action Comics 900, where Superman defends a group of protesters from a country's army. And when he is scolded by the United States government for his actions, Superman renounces being American because he feels his actions are too big to represent just one country. How will the United States government respond in the movie? The trailer also gives us a preview of this. Lois mentions that the Secretary of Defense will investigate the matter, and then we see that Superman is arrested by a group of soldiers led by Rick Flag, who works for the Argos agency. This mysterious character, who could be Ultraman, a clone of Superman, or Ulysses, an engineer, who we also see with Lex Luthor entering the Fortress of Solitude. At some point in the plot, the United States government deems Superman too dangerous and decides to capture him, at least to interrogate him. However, the army and the government will not be alone, as they will probably have Lex Luthor working as a scientific and tactical advisor to stop the Man of Steel. As seen in stories like the new 52 run of Action Comics, where General Lane hires Lex Luthor to capture Superman. As seen in My Adventures with Superman. This does not mean that Lex will not be a millionaire or a threat on his own, rather the government will hire the services of a billionaire to face a threat that was made in the mind. Where have I seen this before? Where have I seen it? That's why we see Engineer, first with Rick Flag and then with Lex Luthor, who strolls through the Fortress of Solitude as if he had every divine right to do so. The scenes include a few notable winks. During the interview, Clark's voice shifts when speaking as Superman. This coming is named Wade after writer Mark Waid, who wrote some of the best Superman stories and is considered the world's foremost expert on the subject. He has consumed every Superman story published in any medium since 1938. Another point of the trailer that I found super interesting and that now makes more sense is this. What could make the public hate Superman so much as to throw things at him? I have a theory. In the trailer, we are told that Superman stopped a war or illegally invaded a country. The public has heavily criticized the Man of Steel, and the key lies in the varying opinions. Because I feel that the United States government will hire Lex as a strategic advisor against Superman, and that Lex will use the media to attack him through fake or biased news. Imagine then a narrative in which Superman the immigrant is presented as a threat to national security. One who ends the Boravian War, provoking their government to attack American wages, jeopardizing everyone's safety. It's a great narrative that would turn the public against Superman. The Hammer of Boravia character's suit has Luthor technology written all over it, revealing the criminal and manipulative genius of the former Luthor. I appreciate this narrative for addressing the prevalent issue of post-truth in modern times, where we tend to choose the truth that best fits our point of view, instead of that truth based solely on facts. which would make this Superman movie feel socially relevant and political, something I love. Later, Engineer's powers are shown, which resemble those in the comics, since they have the ability to create liquid metal weapons from their body, which they use to confront the robots guarding the Fortress of Solitude. And to Krypto, who manages to hurt her, which surprises her, which tells us about the great power that Krypto has, and listen to my words. James Gunn excels at delivering emotional or sad moments in his films, which we'll likely witness with the Fortress robots, Krypto, or both. But I'm already preparing a full video analyzing all of James Gunn's filmography and style, so you should subscribe because it's the next video. Then we have a very emotional dialogue from Jonathan Kent, who talks to Clark about how decisions and actions are what define people. The discussion likely centers around Clark's extraterrestrial origins, reinforcing the movie's potential pro-immigration message. We also get another glimpse of Mr. Terrific using his T-spheres. We see Superman getting some character development and about to receive a blow. But how do the military manage to subdue him? The answer lies in the corner character, Metamorpho, who seemingly transformed his evil into kryptonite. In the comics, Metamorpho can transform his body into various minerals and materials. This makes him particularly effective against Superman, but he doesn't appear to be relishing it. He likely disagrees with the military's actions. But he does it because he and the other superheroes in the film, Mr. Terrific, Guy Gardner, and Hawkgirl, obey the government's official orders. These characters are present to contrast with Superman, representing the kind of hero he is not. Those who follow official orders. And this tells us about a version of Superman who is willing to question authority figures, revisiting the original concept of the character. But I'm certain that Superman will at some point inspire them to surpass their current abilities. We get a glimpse into Lex Luthor's motivations, which is quite intriguing. Who through a dialogue makes us understand that he does not consider Clark a person because he is not human. A version that we have also seen in the comics, where Lex values humanity above all else, and as Superman is not human, he detests him. Similar to Brian Azzarello's Lex Luthor comic and All-Star Superman. This reinforces the immigration discourse by showing Lex discriminating against someone for their birthplace. The scene depicts Clark visibly unshaven in a depressed state as he seeks comfort at his parents' house by curling up. In Superman for All Seasons, he returns to Smallville after failing to save someone due to an ex-Luthor scheme. I also like this because it seems very human to me to return to your parents' house to recover emotionally. Could it be that Clark is recovering from some moral defeat here? I feel that he is. I feel that at one point in the movie, the consequences of his actions in Boravia will be too great. Superman will be the cause of a big problem, and that's why he will momentarily return to his parents' house. It will be when his idealism clashes with reality. But he will be forced to return to fight evil once more, so Martha will bring him his boots. Another highlight is his friendship with Jimmy Olsen and Cat Grant in their Instagram moment. Superman fights Boravia's hammer, regaining the people's faith in him, similar to the Birthright comics. By the way, small theory, don't you think the hammer of Boravia looks a lot like the X's battlesuit? It's something we've never seen in the cinema. And something similar happened in Superman and Lois, where Steel's suit eventually became the X's battlesuit, I feel. There's still a major revelation we haven't encountered. Either with this battlesuit thing, or most likely with the identity of this mysterious character, which I have a feeling will be a clone of Superman. Rumors suggest Supergirl may have a cameo in the movie. I think Krypto will be the link between both films, as the Supergirl movie will be based on the Woman of Tomorrow comic, where Krypto is. Check the video comments. Has anyone written about what happened to Krypto in the Superman comics? If you want to get the comics, I provided several options in the description link. If you're a fan of Superman, subscribe to this channel for in-depth analysis of the character and updates on everything related to him before and after the movie. That's all for today. I am Gio, the Geek Monitor. Keep looking beyond the obvious. Thank you.